you see that?
All right, everybody turn your mics on if you would. Okay, I'll call to order the Roseville Town Board regular meeting, April 4, 2023. Welcome. Looks like we've got a good crowd here tonight, so welcome everybody for coming out. We'll start tonight with a pledge of allegiance and then invocation. I think Brian Coaut is here from Exchange Church, so once we do the pledge, if you would come up and say a few words for us. Thank you. You got a big weekend coming up, so you know.
Well, it's not our big weekend, but yes, it's
That's right. Pledge of allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mike's yours.
Let's pray. Lord, we come to you tonight and we pause to remember in the middle of this Holy Week that the God who ordered the stars and the sun and the moon with your words wrapped yourself in flesh to come and dwell among us, to learn us, to know us, and so that we could learn and to know you. And so, Lord, as we celebrate this resurrection week, we remember that before you rose, you had to die, and that was for us and from us. And so we say thank you. Lord, because you came to be with us, you know our hearts and our minds and how complicated they are. And so, Lord, I pray that even tonight in a town hall meeting, you would speak to us and give us wisdom and discernment, that you would gift us with the peace that you speak about that passes even understanding. And so, Lord, we'll trust you to not just guide our eternity, but that you would guide our words and our actions, our thoughts, and how we treat each other. And Jesus, it's in your name that we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Appreciate it, Brian. Thank you for coming out. Okay, before we get started, you may see Commissioner Sutton is missing tonight. She had a tragedy in her family out on the West Coast, so she won't be with us. And let's just remember her in prayer, too, as we go through the weekend. I think she'll be out there all weekend, and just keep her in mind, too, forward as we go through the week. All right. Next item is review of the agenda. So the board has the agenda in front of you. If there is any additions or changes, kind of let me know. If not, I will consider a consideration for the agenda.
So moved.
All right, got a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we will follow the agenda. And the first thing is the consent agenda. I think the clerk is asking for a annexation of 2207 Pierce Farm, Toms Creek, call for a legislative public hearing. That's the only item on the consent agenda, so I will entertain a motion for the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All right, got a motion second. Any other discussion? Not hearing any. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, moving along. First item, board liaison reports. Commissioner Vega, Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, anything you have to report on?
Yeah, they met on the 22nd. Each person on the board was given a list of the capital improvement projects for the years of 2024 to 2029 and asked to review those and come up with like a priority list, and they'll discuss that next meeting. Trail art was also chosen for our trail art program we'll have in June. We reviewed 3 plans for greenway and bicycle lanes, and youth athletic staffing was discussed as well. That's all I have.
Very good. Thank you. Appreciate that. Commissioner Sutton is not here, but as for economic development, we got a couple more projects coming out. I saw some applications coming in even for another new business this week that may come to town. So looks like our economic development is really picking up, and just hope that continues there. Commissioner Medley, Planning Board, any reports from the Planning Board?
Oh, there she is. Okay, so we did have a planning board meeting last Monday, I think. But I'm going to let Meredith go into detail on that. But I do want to say that I'm one of the delegates for Triangle J. And I would just say to all the commissioners here, take a look if you haven't. I know Robin sent it as well today. Information regarding which bill is that one, Ronnie?
317.
Yeah, 317. I would even tell the citizens, look that up. That means a lot. It says a lot. I went to the meet with some of the representatives last week, and this was what we were supposed to talk about got put on the back burner because of some things that happened with the shooting and everything. But this was one of the issues that they were talking about outside of the shooting. And I just know it will impact our communities in such a big way. So it's really important that we all get in front of it as commissioners and as citizens, so we know what could happen. Your input would be very valuable to us. I'm just going to leave it at that, but please take a look at that bill and also House Bill 409, which is in regards to accessory dwelling, because that was a huge topic. And I know it's a huge topic in Durham right now. And again, that's House Bill 409. It's the regulation of ADUs. And again, oh my God, I'm coming back to it again because it's so important. House Bill 317. And that's all I have for right now.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anything else from Planning Board? All right.
Not really.
Next item, Commissioner Sneed, Public Safety.
We had been working with the fire department on the unification, and they have pushed the date out to July of '25. So I have no further updates on that right now. But we do have a fire department board meeting on Monday night, the 10th. That's it for me.
All
Quick
right.
question, was that the 24 at one time, now it's 25? Mm-hmm. But it was 23.
Was it ever 23? No.
It was always 24, then 25. Okay, I wasn't sure.
Thank you, Commissioner. And Commissioner Austin, Veterans, got a
Yes.
report for us tonight?
Yes, sir. Memorial Day is about 1 month away, so I want to inform you all about the Memorial Mile. The town of Roseville wants to remember people who gave the ultimate sacrifice by walking along the Greenway on Trail Alpha in the Main Street Park on Memorial Day. There is no cost to request a sign for a loved one that served, but you do need to fill out the memorial sign prior to April 30th. Your service member will be listed on the Memorial Mile shirt and have a sign placed on Trail Alpha. The T-shirts are $25 each and need to be ordered prior to April 30th as well. The links can be found on the town website as well as the Roseville News Blast. The Navy Talent Acquisition Group informed me that they have more presence at Roseville High School. They actually have a recruiter on site now that comes there weekly, and he has spoken to several students that are interested in joining the United States Navy. I went to Roseville High School on last Thursday, 30 March, to follow up on the Navy Junior ROTC program with Principal Perry. He has been very busy as of lately as a high school principal. So one of his, which I did not know, the Roseville High School had 6 assistant high school assistant principals with a total of 2,500 students. So he has a very high-speed assistant principal that's going to take the lead to help make the JROTC a reality for Roseville High School. And that's all I have.
Nice.
Very good. Thank you, Commissioner. All right. We do have a couple of our staff leaders here tonight that will give us an update. First, J.G. Ferguson, Parks and Recreation.
Thank you, Mayor and Board of Commissioners. I know you heard a lot from me last week, so I'll try to be brief tonight. Just Just a quick update. I figured I'd take this opportunity to kind of touch on some of the upcoming special events and ones we just wrapped up. As Commissioner Austin just mentioned, we do have the Memorial Day event coming up. The Roseville Garden Club kind of leads that, and we are assisting with some of that, so thank you for mentioning that tonight as well. Some of the most recent events, last week we held our shred event here in town, and we collected over 8,000 pounds of paper products to be shredded at that event. So that was a very successful event that we had last week. Last night, we had our egg rush. As you can see, all the eggs laying out in the picture on the right, where they just rush out and grab them by age groups. It was a rescheduled from Saturday. We had over 750 people come through the gates last night for that event, which is a little bit smaller than we anticipated, but doing on a Monday versus a Saturday due to weather. We kind of anticipated that number as well. So that number actually hit, I think, last year's Saturday number or close to that. So we anticipated a lot larger crowd. But very successful. Kristen's doing a great job with our special events. So ongoing and special events that we have throughout the year is our litter sweep. As you see, we have those every other month, for the exception of the month of April is when DOT supports their litter sweep campaign. So we added an extra one to go along with their campaign, and that's April the 15th. All these events typically take place between 9 and 11 a.m., and you can choose where in town you would like to go pick up litter. So beautification project, so the dates are April 15th, May 6th, July 15th, September 9th, November 4th. Meet here at the community center. We give you all the supplies you need to then go out and collect litter along the town. We ask that you kind of tell us where you're going so we can make sure we get those bags picked up promptly as well. Another ongoing event is the blood drive. We started back during the pandemic. It's been very successful. Our next blood drive is on April the 14th. We currently have only 8 spots left to fill be at our capacity for the blood drive. We have been one of the most successful American Red Cross sites where we almost typically always fill up all of our spots available every other month. And those are on the opposite months of the litter sweep. So there's once a month there's something reoccurring. And all these events are for the blood drive, are 12:30 to 5 p.m. time slots. One of our new events we have this year is going to be our Juneteenth celebration. We are partnering with the Thorn to Rose Foundation. They're doing a lot of the leading of that event for us. We're with live performances, music, dance, and poetry. Plan on having food trucks and kid activities, and it's going to be at Millbridge Nature Park, and I believe that begins at 1 p.m. on June the 11th.
What day is that, a Saturday,
I have to look. I think it's a Sunday.
Sunday?
I'd have to double check. Don't hold me to that date. I apologize. I don't have the exact date.
What's the
But
time
that-
again, sir?
Excuse me?
What's the time again?
I believe it starts at 1 p.m.
It's a Sunday.
And we worked with Thorn to Rose, and that was one of the days they chose to want to do it on that day. I think it was when a lot of their speakers, they could get lined up, I believe. So I'd like to give Thorn to Rose a lot of credit for stepping up and helping us with this event. Another program we have this spring is our spring concert, the Music at Millbridge. We have 5 concerts this spring. Our first one will be April the 15th. Again, you see April's a busy month for Kristen. We have jazz and pop is the genre. April 29th is a rock band. May the 13th is Motown, Top 40, and R&B. May the 27th is a string band. And June 3rd, which wraps up our concert series, is the British Invaders Band, which is a tribute band. So we will have food trucks on site. Kristen's finalizing those 2 2BA food trucks, and Koi Pond will be on site serving beer and wine for sale.
The genres are listed online with, by those dates.
Excuse me?
KG, are the genres listed online by those dates?
You know, that's something that I can get with Kristen and add. I don't think we have that column, but that would be good to add
That
what
would be
genres
great,
on there.
yeah.
Yes, ma'am. I'll make a note of that.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for that recommendation. As Commissioner Vilger mentioned, Parks and Recreation Board did vote on the selection of the trail art for this year. Once again, in the month of June, we put out 2 pieces of art along the Greenway system every single day in the month of June. It's Finders Keepers. This year it's clay birds that are painted as well, so it's a large piece again, so it'll be easy to see and recognize along the trail system. So look for those come June 1st.
2 per day, right?
Yes, ma'am. And finally, coming up on our July 4th celebration, again, that will be on July 4th. This year's band, we are close to signing the contract this week, but we're looking to have Liquid Pleasure as our band. Some of you may have heard that name. They've been around for quite a while, and they're maybe up there close to chairman of the board with the popularity in North Carolina and similar music styles. So we anticipate another large turnout and a great performance by that band. We have the same fireworks company lined up to shoot off a very similar show production-wise to last year, so we're excited about that as well. And we're looking to double our food trucks that we had last year. So we're
Positive.
right. So it's going to be a little bit bigger layout. Field A, which is the field closest to the villages, will be a lot of the kid activities over there. And then Field A will be more of just for those seating for the bands. We realized it was just getting cramped on that one field. It was a much larger event than we anticipated. So we're planning ahead this year.
So what do we think the turnout was last year? Do we know?
I believe we guesstimated, working with Chief and the police department, in total between on-site and those just watching, we probably had over 10,000 people in that vicinity. We feel our clickers, we had, I think, over 4,000 or 5,000 on site alone, plus another 2,000 or so in the streets on Redford Place Drive, and then maybe another 2,000 out around town watching fireworks throughout town.
It's a big turnout.
It was a very big turnout, so we're preparing for the same again this year, or bigger. I got to give PD a lot of thanks. They do assist with a lot of our special events, so I want to make sure I give them a special plug. And that's all I have tonight for the presentation. And this is just special events up through June. These are or July, and these are our big ones for the current budget.
Any questions for JG? Well, thank you, JG. Looks like a lot of good things. Give thanks to your staff.
I will. They do a
I know
great
they've been
job.
working hard, planning for this, so give thanks from the board to them, if you would.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, our next speaker is our Assistant Town Manager, Eric Marsh, and he's going to speak on Public Works update.
Good evening to you all, to the board, everyone here in attendance, and those of you online. I just wanted to provide an update on our Public Works Department for you really quickly, and also give you some rapid-fire updates on some of the construction projects you may have seen around town. And so I think that will be of use to you. So over the last few months, since I've hunched down a little bit, since I've came before you with our last update, we've been able to purchase a work order software that we've been rolling out and implementing across the town to kind of help us better track some of the tickets that we get, both internally from staff that need things from Public Works. Parks and Recreation is one of our biggest served departments, and then also tracking our external requests from the community within that, so we can get some closure rates on that. So that should help us out a lot with not only just communication, but tracking our level of service as we kind of try to set a standard as we finish up this fiscal year and move into next year, where we can start trending some of our data. We've also made some major purchases, and so we're finishing up everything with the electric vehicle that will be an administrative vehicle that staff can use around town. We're waiting on the decals for that and some of the licensing. And other things we've done with Public Works is we're finally going to be able to make moves to buy that new truck that you had approved in our budget. That's something that had not been in supply, just like we had waited on the EV vehicle for a while. And so we finally been able to find that. And then some other things that we had in our budget, like purchasing a project management software. That's something that we have determined that we are not in a good position to roll out and implement that right now, because we were doing the work order software and we did not realize how cumbersome that would be. And so the funding that we had set aside for the project management software, we're going to go back and something that we had removed from our budget that we want to be in this upcoming budget year, which is purchasing a town spec and working with our engineers to build that out, to put together a design standard that could help with our developers and even the people who want to build and those that call with questions. And then specifically with the Greenway too, that'll help us out a lot. And so we're able to kind of leverage that capacity, the things we couldn't get to, some of that financial capacity, to knock things off of our list to avoid carry it into another year. So that's something that we're initiating and we're working on right now. One quick update that I wanted to give to you all and also to everyone. Allen Tree Service, they are the yard waste provider for us. They've been having some maintenance issues. And one thing that we've communicated out on social media and on the website is that they'll be moving to 2-day service for a brief time until they can get another part for their truck. And also, they're looking to purchase a new truck to help deal with some of the volume we're getting with our yard waste. And so for the immediate future, it will be 2 days. And so we're working to figure out what those routes look like and where they're starting and stop consistently on that first day and then that second day. But that's something we're just working with them to get. So we're asking everyone to give us a little bit of patience, but we are communicating that to everyone who calls in and letting them know that that is that, because, you know, we have that expectation of it happening on one day. And so that's something that we are working through with them and continuing to try to help address. The 3 updates I want to give you on the construction projects. Number one is Willoughby. And so that lap project that is on Rogers Road at Willoughby that you all have not heard about in a while, that's because we had spent so much time getting easements. After we got the easements, they had to go back and do some redesign. And so now we're getting those final permits from NCDEQ. So we're expecting those within the next week and a half, 2 weeks, so that we can go out to bid for that and hopefully get that into the construction late this summer. NCDEQ is a common theme that you will see in these updates. And so we work with them to get those updates. Public Works Facility, same thing with that. They just got their erosion control approved through NCDEQ. And so they have official land disturbance permission out there. And so they finished up all of the erosion control, and now they're doing the fine grading and working on the building pad to start pouring concrete. And so they're moving into the utilities phase. The building, which is a prefabricated steel building that we had chosen, is ready and is ahead of time. And so we don't have any delays with that. And so we're fortunate for that to be the case with that, but everything has been going well. And they've been doing really great on communication, O'Connor Construction Company of North Carolina. And then the last thing I want to give you a brief update on is on Main Street. As you can see, there's a lot of clearing. A majority of the clearing has happened so far with the project. The main things they were doing is getting the clearing done so they can prepare and put down all their erosion control. If you check out the website, RosevilleMainStreetProject.com, everyone, RosevilleMainStreetProject.com, you see some cool drone photos and videos. And so the erosion control is about 95% placed. And again, that'll get inspected. We get cleared by NCDEQ for that. That way they can start moving on with more construction closer to the right of way. But as you can see, the entire stretch of that new piece of road of Burlington Mills Road, where it's being realigned, is completely cleared. And you can see that, honestly, from Burlington Mills all to Main Street now. But if you look on the website, you'll see some really good photos of how that intersection or new street will work out for us. And so I encourage everyone to go to that website and do that. We've been doing great on communication so far with Main Street. You should have seen a mailer in your water bills. And also there's another mailer going out that's from RK&K, the company we're using for our CE&I construction administration, engineering inspections. They're sending out a mailer for people who live in the immediate impact area of the project. And so all of that will give you information about it. The most important one is an open house that we're going to be having on April the 24th. It's April the 24th for those who want to come and get more information about the project, when the anticipated closings and all those things will be taking place. And so we're trying to wait a little bit further down the road to give all this information, so when it's closer to it actually happening, so we don't want to overwhelm everything with it. But the main thing that we wanted to communicate about the project right now is that all along Main Street right now, because of the clearing and the cutting down the trees, There are going to be shifts in traffic lanes and these rolling kind of disturbances in traffic flow. But traffic flow will be maintained all day, every day. They just have to be attentive to the shifts. And so one thing to supplement that, we're working on getting addressing speed limit and all those different things on Main Street. That way it'll be a safer place for people to kind of travel through in general, but more specifically in this time of construction as well. But those are the main updates that we have with Public Works as far as the things that we've accomplished and what we're looking forward to and the things we're kind of working through. And then those 3 projects that we're working on that kind of, they're CIP projects, but fall into our purview as well. I just wanted to provide updates to you on.
Good.
Do y'all have any
update.
questions or anything?
Yeah,
or-
good update.
I
Any
know it's a lot of
questions from the board?
information, but I just wanted to get it out here so that those who watch online, you can just go through and listen and hear what those things are. But the most important end date is April 24th is when we have the open house where you can get more information about Main Street. I think it's,
And
say
where?
it again? It's evening time.
Here?
Yes, it'll be here. It'll be in the community center.
And that's online too, right?
That is online on the website. And so if you go RoseVilleMainStreetProject.com, you see it on there as well. And you also see a committed phone line for the project so that we can kind of reroute some of the calls that come to the front desk that is to the hotline for the project. I don't know that number by heart, but that's also on that website and on our social media as well.
Okay. I think Charles had a question.
The project you were just referring to, is that in combination with Publix opening up, or is that 2 separate projects?
So
You're talking
they.
about traffic and all, and clearing
Ye-
clearing the
Yes,
trees.
so they are 2 separate projects.
Yes.
But we've kind of partnered in how we're executing it so that we can kind of get it all done at the same time. Because that Burlington Mills intersection that's happening, that realignment will help with traffic that flows into that Walbrook development. And so you'll see work going on for both, but a majority of their work that is going to impact the right-of-way and rate of travel is the intersection that we are helping execute in the Main Street project. A lot of their work
That's why I asked.
is like off. All the other stuff is off in the middle of the woods, and it'll eventually you'll turn around and you'll see a shopping center and a Publix over there.
Thank you.
Eric, I was thinking the project was 18 months, but I read recently it's like 2 years now, and it go into 2025. Are we looking at 2 years now with the project?
Yes, so it's always been 2 years, but we say 18 months because the work that will impact traffic flow starts later than the actual start of the project, if that makes sense. And so they've been cutting down trees and all that stuff for the last 2 months. And so there hasn't been any major impact in the right of way. But in the next few months, you'll definitely see that stuff ramp up with the work you actually see as you physically drive by outside of watching the dust come up over the tree line when you come down Main Street.
So it will be early 2025 then, you think, before it's finished?
No, it will be, yes, it will be early 25. I'm thinking,
The contract
This
allows
year
the
and that year.
contractor to go
Yep.
through early 2025.
and so,
We anticipate
yes,
most of being done by end of 2024.
yes.
Yeah. I think I read 2025, and I believe that was the first time I read 2025, I think. But-
Yeah.
Okay. Well, good work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you got a lot going on.
Yes,
You got a little economic development department of
That's
your
an
own.
understatement. We have a ton going on, but it's good. It's really good. It's exciting work. And so, in 2 years, none of this will be a headache. It'll all be something we can sit back and enjoy.
Well, thank you.
Wait, I do have a
Good.
question about the trash. Are they doubling up now, or they'll be doubling up in the future?
So it's yard waste.
Right.
And so yard waste is doubling up now. They're going to be 2 days. And so whatever they can't get done the first day, they'll do the second day. And so what we've been doing they've notified us a week and a half ago, and we've been kind of tracking where they stopped over the last week to kind of put out some kind of communication on this is where they typically stop. But their goal is to get as much work done as possible in any case. But we want to try to help set expectations because I know a lot of HOAs don't like when rollout containers are out there multiple days, so we're going to try to figure out a way to communicate. But we've been doing that, and we've been asking them to communicate that to the HOAs and hoping that they will be understanding of that. And so we're just, it's 2 days right now. And
So who
that's how
holds
it
that
goes.
contract right now?
That is Allen's Tree Service.
Okay. I thought you said somebody else.
All right, thanks, appreciate it, Eric. Good job, good department. Thanks the folks in your apartment, all the work they're doing to keep the streets clean and clear and all that kind of stuff, so thanks a lot. He was talking about the new building going up soon, and I didn't think about to mention it in our economic development, but if you haven't rode by where the Carolina Legacy volleyball facilities going, that is really taking off. I mean, they got the courts up and the nets up, and it's a pretty nice facility, looks like, so that's coming along really well. And that's over on Granite Falls Boulevard for the folks that didn't realize that. Public is now invited to speak. See if we got anyone signed up. And this would not be for any of the public hearings we got. This has to, anything anybody want to talk about other than what we have on the agenda item. First is Wendy Poole. Come on up, Wendy, and state your, I got your name and address here, but go ahead and state it for the record. And you got 3 minutes, anything you want to bring to the board's attention.
Okay. My name is Wendy Poole, and my address is written down 808 Darius Pierce Road. Thank you for your time tonight. While I'm not a resident of the town of Rollsville, I did grow up on Rogers Road and played rec league sports my whole childhood in Wake Forest. My husband, who has helped coach t-ball and baseball for the past 3 years, grew up playing baseball in Rollsville on what we know today as Field C. He watched them build the other 2 fields. Spring baseball used to be a big deal in this town. The kids would ride on floats in a parade, and there would be games all day long, as every team would play that day. These teams would battle it out all season. Playoffs were seeded, and team ranks were kept throughout the season. The winning team's coach would then get the opportunity to coach the all-star team. Being in the parade on opening day was something my husband looked forward to all year long. It was a beautiful display of the community coming together to support its youth. I believe Rollsville has missed an amazing opportunity this year with its spring sports. With the advent of food trucks and street vendors, opening day could have been a beautiful celebration in this town. What I and many other parents are most disappointed about is the canceling of the playoffs this year. While some children enjoy playing sports just to play them, I know most of these young boys and girls enjoy the competition. Research has shown that competitive sports provide numerous benefits to youth that extend beyond just physical health. They teach essential life skills such as teamwork, communication, perseverance, and time management. Competitive sports also offer an opportunity for youth to develop a sense of community and belonging, which is especially important in a world where social isolation is prevalent. While most of the adult conflict is all in good fun, you will always have a few bad apples. Canceling a postseason based on the actions of a couple of parents only leads to children developing a greater sense of distrust in the authority figures in their life and may even lead to increased conflict and rebellion due to their feeling of helplessness. Parents will always squabble amongst themselves and with the umpire. Honestly, it's part of the baseball experience that I promise will not go away by taking away the playoffs or making parents sign a code of conduct. Either the town has gone soft or it has gone lazy, but either option is shameful and teaches our children that they'll get punished because adults can't act like adults anymore. I know many parents who have said this is their last season playing sports for the town of Rollsville because of the changes it made to spring sports. We pay extra to play here because this town was such a big part of our childhood, and we would love to give our children those same memories. It's not worth our investment to pay the same but not get as many games as years prior. While I know it is too late to orchestrate a parade and opening day celebration this year, there's still plenty of time to salvage the postseason. I urge you, Town Board and Mr. Ferguson, to reconsider your position on not having playoffs this year. There are apps that make it easy to keep track of scores and standings and ways to create a seeded playoff schedule that won't make the season much longer. By bringing back competition to competitive sports, this town is investing in the future success and well-being of its youth and contributing to the development of healthy and productive citizens. My father always told me, wise men change their minds, fools never do. I hope you will reconsider adding back the playoffs to the end of the season. You will not regret it. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. Appreciate that. Thanks for coming out. Thanks for giving us a frank update on what you see. And, you know, Rollsville is, we look at ourselves as a community, so it's bigger than the town. So welcome, even though you're from Youngsville, and we'll take all you said to heart there, so appreciate it. Thank you for coming
Yes,
out.
sir. Thank you.
Thank you. And Kelly, I think you taking some notes. We'll follow up and see what that will,
I'm sorry, but I have no idea as to what she's talking about.
yeah, I'm not sure either, but we'll follow up and see if we can get some information on it. You got it? Okay. Or just report back to the board what you find out. And thank you for coming out, Wendy. Appreciate that. Thank you. All right. Any more, I don't see any more signed up, but before we go into the business of in hand, which is some land use items, is there any more public comments you want to make? We got a few minutes if anybody want to make any. All right. Sounds like everybody is excited to get into the land use issues, so we will go right into that. We will start off with a legislative hearing TA 2202 for Jones Dairy Storage. If I recall, TA is a text amendment, and I will open the public hearing and take an introduction from staff.
Great. Good evening. Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Commissioners. So at your February meeting, you heard a package of items for the Jones Dairy Storage Project that includes a text amendment, rezoning or map amendment, annexation, as well as an alternative parking plan. So I'm going to kick off the text amendment this evening, then Mike Ellebarger will come up and do the staff presentation for the rezoning, annexation, and alternative parking plan. And the applicant is here to do a presentation as well. So we do the text amendment first because the text amendment is necessary for the rest of the project to take place. This is an applicant-initiated text amendment. The applicant is requesting that LDO section 5.1.6.d.5.b be amended as shown on the slide. So it's about the industrial light principal use and self-storage uses. And so self-service storage shall be contained in a fully enclosed building and contained in a single building accessed internally. That's what it says right now. So the applicant is proposing to add, except in the general industrial district not located on North Main Street or South Main Street. And the portion about North Main Street and South Main Street has been added since your February meeting. And that has been added to address concerns about some of the general industrial parcels along Main Street and not wanting to see a use like that or a traditional storage building along Main Street. So in addition, the text amendment includes a clarification shown on the bottom of the slide. Examples of this type of use include warehouses and mini warehouses, and self-storage is scratched from that section. So it focuses the self-storage and clarifies it to be an industrial light principal use. So when the planning board heard this, they unanimously recommended approval of the text amendment. And when staff was looking at this, staff does believe that traditional self-storage buildings may be appropriate in some zoning districts in some locations. Fully enclosed storage buildings like the Be Safe self-storage are typically more attractive and generally fit better into the fabric of a community. It feels more like an office building or something when you walk by. And staff also believes that further discussion of our community's vision for self-storage uses would be helpful as a follow-up after this project. So staff does recommend approval of the text amendment based on the first item on hero analysis that traditional self-storage buildings may be appropriate in some locations. And I might need some help with the motion part. I know Mike has put together in the presentation the slide for all the motions, so I don't know if we need to do the motion for this one now or if it can wait until we see the applicant presentation.
We could have the public hearing on the text amendment, and then the board could take action as it deems appropriate after the public hearing.
Great. Thank you.
Very good. I will, thank you. Any questions for staff? Any questions from the board? Okay, I will see if there's any introduction from the applicant.
I think we were hoping to kind of present everything together.
Okay, that'd be fine, if that's your wish.
Yes.
So I will entertain any comments this is a text amendment, really doesn't have a whole lot to do with this public storage. This is a text amendment that calls for industrial sites to be able to be used for that, and you can't do it on Main Street, I think, if I got a gist of that. So anybody in, I guess, favor of the text amendment, this is your chance to speak, or in opposition of just the text amendment, this is your chance to speak. Come on up. State your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, good evening, everybody. My name is Janice Pettit. My address is 228 Tortuga Street in Rollsville. We have two parts to the statements that we'd like to make, but one of them in regards to the text amendment. We understand you've all received a letter from our neighbor, Jeff Triesenberg, who's the town planner in Garner. He couldn't be here this evening, but he has been our lead for 40 or so residents who are concerned about several different items on the agenda. The text amendment, we believe, would allow outbuildings, a storage facility with outbuildings, which would mean that we are looking out on concrete buildings with outdoor garages, and that does concern us. We understand that the adjustment that's been made tonight would mean that on Main Street, we couldn't have those type of storage facilities, but in our backyard, we could. So that's a problem or concern that the neighbors who are looking out on that facility have. I don't know if this is the proper time to express our other concerns, or if I should do that after the presentation.
Yeah, just the text amendment at
Okay.
this moment.
Thank you.
Any other, I think that was opposition, if I took it correctly. Any other, right? Did I take it? I thought I did. Any other comments in favor or opposition? All right. I'm going to close this public hearing then. So we're closing the text amendment. Is the recommendation from staff and attorney, we just vote all at one time? Get the two public hearings down?
It's entirely up to the,
Let's do
up
that
to you,
then.
Mr. Mayor. Do you want to hold it and vote it all together?
Yeah.
Or you could,
Let's do that.
however you
I
want to
think
do
it flows a little better when we
Okay.
do all the voting together. So you up. So I will open the public hearing, legislative hearing. This is for MA 2209 and NAX 2208 Jones Dairy Storage. Welcome, Mike. I think you're going to do the staff introduction, it looks like.
Sure. And this will be brief. As Meredith noted, this is continuation of action from your February 7th meeting, where a public hearing was started at that point. So this is the MAP Amendment 2209, Voluntary Annexation Petition 2208, plus an alternative parking plan, which you'll really see details in the applicant's presentation. So very, very briefly, this application has, again, a couple of components to it: a voluntary annexation, a request to rezone this property from Wake County's Industrial 1 zoning district to the town's General Industrial District as a conditional district, so that acronym becomes GC-CZ. That petition for rezoning includes a concept plan and conditions of approval. There are 7 provided in the staff memo. That is very, very specific for a specific type of self-storage development, as you see in that concept plan. And again, also riding with this is an alternative parking plan where the applicant is asking the town board for approval of a reduced parking amount and a change in the general location of parking, as the LDO would not provide that to be between the building and the street. So again, I'm going to turn this right over to the applicant. They have a full and thorough presentation, including images from the concept plan, details on the conditions of approval, et cetera, and the revisions that have occurred since your February 7th meeting. And then after the presentation, we come back for any questions that you may have, and also I have all the motions laid out on a slide for y'all to consider.
Okay. Well, thanks, Mike. Before you step down, any questions for staff from the board?
No.
No question? Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. All right, Counselor, you have the mic to state your case.
All right. Thank you, I appreciate it. Here we go.
Introduce yourself, if you would, address for the record.
Absolutely.
Good evening, Mayor Curran, Commissioners. My name is Ashley Honeycutt Terrazas with Parker Poe. I have with me, and that address is 301 Fayetteville Street in Raleigh. I have with me Brian Holder and Sean McKinley from Rivercrest Realty. And then from the Timmons Group, we have Garrett Frank, who's a civil engineer. So thanks, Mike and Meredith, for explaining the request, working with us on this case. And as we discussed with you a couple months ago, this case involves 4 different requests: an annexation, an application of Rolesville zoning, an alternative parking plan, and then the LDO text amendment that we just talked about a little bit about. So I think we covered the annexation and the alternative parking plan pretty well back in February. So tonight I just want to focus on the updates that we've made to the requested LDO text amendment and the zoning conditions. So, as we've talked about, these requests will facilitate the development of a nicer self-storage facility than what is already permitted on the site today. Like we've talked about, it's a low-impact commercial use for residents in the area. And we want it to be designed in a way that can be more sensitive to the requests of the neighbors that we heard from now during 3 neighborhood meetings and several other meetings, emails, phone calls, and community engagement that we've had throughout the process. Again, this just a reminder: 5.5 acre parcel there on Jones Dairy Road, edge of Rolesville. It's not owned by the school. That's privately owned. And as you can see from the aerial, it's mostly covered with pine trees, and we believe those pine trees were planted about 25 years ago, according to the forester, so that the property would be classified as agricultural for tax purposes. And there's many existing forthcoming neighborhoods in the area. So I'll just get right into the changes that we made to the LDO text amendment and why we made those changes and what they mean. So as we added the language in bold that prohibits multi-building self-storage in the general industrial district on Main Street. Every property in Rolesville that has general use, general industrial zoning is located on North or South Main Street. So here's a snapshot of each one of those sites, their size, and the businesses that are currently operating on those sites today. And I'm sure y'all are very familiar with these. And I'll just, I'm not going to talk about what would be the likelihood that these would redevelop into the garage-style self-storage. But I'll just say that, with the way that we now have the text amendment, that would not be possible. And what this also means is that if somebody else wanted to develop, this multi-building self-storage somewhere other than Main Street, they would have to go through a rezoning. So, which means that the board would get a chance to look at it, make sure that the use and the design are appropriate for the location. So now I'm going to switch gears and talk about updates to the zoning request. Again, this is just a little bit of a refresher because I know it's been a couple months. This site's current zoning is Wake County Industrial 1, which means that self-service storage is permitted and could be developed on the site today under its current Wake County zoning. But our primary driver in seeking the annexation is to be able to connect to Rolesville's public utilities in order, again, to develop a nicer self-storage facility that we could develop in the county. To have indoor sprinklers, for example, you need to be able to connect to Rolesville's utilities. And because this site has Wake County zoning, our annexation request must be accompanied by a zoning application for the site. And so we've applied, the analogous zoning in Rolesville's code to what it's zoned today, and that's the general industrial district that we're seeking. Also chosen to seek a conditional zoning to be able to respond to town and neighbor feedback. Okay, and this is our case timeline. We went through the feedback that we had gotten at 2 neighborhood meetings that we held before our February 7th hearing from staff and from your planning board over the course of 6 months that we had been working on the case. So that you can see there, that first neighborhood meeting we had before we even had our first TRC meeting with staff, and we get some initial feedback. And then we did an in-person meeting in December. And then we had, and as I mentioned last time, we got some additional feedback from some neighbors the day before the hearing back in February, so we worked quickly to set up another meeting to discuss the case and that feedback with those neighbors. So, we had a very short deadline to set that meeting up because the changes were due and needed to be reviewed by your staff quickly in order to avoid any more, unnecessary delays. So I organized the meeting for a week following the hearing back in February. That was on February 13th. We didn't want to do it on Valentine's Day, so that we would have time to assess and make those changes. So we held it virtually because I have found that format tends to be a bit easier for folks to attend, especially people with young kids like me, which I heard some of the people at the hearing last time mention they had young kids, so I thought this format would be easier for them. And the gentleman who wrote you the letter you received before the hearing agreed that he would share the link to the meeting in the same way that he shared the letter with his neighbors, which I did think would be the most effective way to reach the interested community members, as most of the people who signed the letter were not in the LDO prescribed notice area. So we did that. We had that dialogue with the folks who joined the meeting and have made some updates to respond to what we heard at the meeting in our zoning conditions. And that's what I'm gonna go through now. Okay, this is a summary of the conditions, and the changes are bolded in blue text. As we discussed last time, our concept plan is incorporated as a zoning condition, and we've made some adjustments to that to respond to what we heard at our meeting and at the hearing. And I'll go over those changes in just a second. We also heard concerns about the screening and landscaping on the ACT Electric property line, that industrial property next to us. As ACT does not have very many trees back there on its property. So we will extend the screening that was included originally just to cover like the building gap. We're going to extend that all the way up that property line. And we'll also limit the hours of access to the exterior access units so that we will make some architectural materials commitments that were specifically asked for in the meeting. And again, that's in addition to the undisturbed vegetation area at the rear of the site, the full cutoff light fixtures that we had talked to the community about to mitigate the light pollution, and the pollinator plants in the stormwater pond that we had talked about last time. So this is our updated concept. As you can see, it's still the one-story design with the outer buildings acting like a wall to shield the views of the use to the neighbors. When we explained this design to the neighbors who came to the third meeting, the consensus was, and our understanding was, that the one-story inward-facing design that we have been proposing since the beginning was preferable and more appropriate for this area than a larger multi-story, like in and up, like a big old Be-Safe. So we did hear some additional concerns about the gap in the back of the building there. I don't know if you can see it on the screen, like in that back southern corner. So we looked at it and we moved the stormwater access gate to the other side of the building, and we've shifted the building down even further to reduce the size of the gap. And then we also wanted to show the access drive aligned with the driveways of the residents across the street on Jones Dairy that the gentleman spoke to you about last time at the hearing.
I'm sorry, excuse me, but
Yes,
do you
ma'am.
have a little red pointer there?
Is this a pointer? Oh, you do? Okay, I'm sorry.
And if you can go back to where you said you moved the building?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is the gap that I'm talking about right here, these like two back buildings. Originally, we'd had the gate, access gate over here, but we shifted that building down and put the gate over here, again, just to cover it as much as we could. So, and then, does that answer your question, Commissioner Medley?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, great. So we wanted to show the access drive aligned with the driveways of the residences across the street on Jones Dairy. This location that the neighbor talked to us about during the he had been engaged with us in the neighborhood meetings, and we talked to him before, and he came to the hearing last month. And as we talked to him about before, and it's noted on the concept, the NCDOT will determine and approve the final location of that driveway, but it's our intention to ask for that location, as we had discussed with Mr. Emery, and we're showing that intention on the concept. We don't see any reason we couldn't do it at this point. And then, so those are the changes that we've made to the concept. And then I also wanted to talk about some other one-story self-storage developments to kind of show you what we're thinking here. Image on the left, just a newer one-story, low-profile design, that is still being developed. And then the images on the right show another one-story facility, which is actually right around the corner from where I live in North Raleigh, and with a closer layout to what we're proposing. So it has, as you can see, the larger buildings in the middle, but then those long outer buildings act like a wall for the adjacent single-family residential neighborhood. And then that image, you see those walls right there. And then this image right here is, what it looks like from the street view from that street right there. So it looks like a wall through some trees. And then this is, so I'm going to run through the updated conditions now. This is the language of our updated condition 4, which commits to those additional fast-growing evergreen trees now along the entirety of the ACT property line. We also heard a concern about not being able to plant evergreens and a potential utility easement on that property line. So we adjusted the language to clarify that if, the evergreens, they would be planted outside of the utility easement. It didn't come up, that didn't come up in the title work, but we're not saying it won't be asked to be dedicated at site plan. So if it is, we'll make sure those trees are planted outside of the easement. And then this just visualizes where that's at on the concept plan. This is the power lines that a picture of it, and that this was sent to me. And then this is just a little snip from a Duke energy guidance document about what you can and can't plant near power lines. So you'd have to plant evergreens outside of the easement. These are the gates that will be locked between 10 and 6 p.m. Sounds from middle of the night access was the primary concern with the exterior units that we heard and that I think was expressed in the letter. So we committed to hours restrictions that we think are reasonable while still making the units marketable. And then this is the language of the condition prohibiting certain architectural materials that we heard concerns about and committing to incorporating that brick masonry element on the visible exterior facades. So, this just visualizes that for you. Like, these are the materials that we're not going to use. This is like brick and masonry elements, and then we're making sure that we're prioritizing these facades that you can see from Jones Dairy and then in these neighbors back here on Tortuga. And so those are the updates to our requests, and we respectfully ask that you approve the annexation, the zoning request, and then the text amendment that makes this concept possible, and the alternative parking plan so that we can connect to Rollsville's utilities and come into your town and into your tax base and build a project that's more sensitive to the requests of the neighbors. Thank you.
Quick question.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Councilor. Questions from the board? Go ahead.
Just the alternative parking plan. If you can just review that real quick.
Yeah, so remember Jeff Hockenodal, our transportation engineer, came up here last time and he ran through the approval criteria, and he talked about there's a parking study that he did that was in your agenda packet. And he talked about how they went out and looked at another storage facility and looked at the parking needs at that facility, and it really self-storage isn't a use that needs a lot of parking, like designated parking for people coming there to, I guess, rent a unit or maybe buy some moving supplies, things like that. And then he also talked about how, we're trying to, one of the other parts of the alternative parking plan is that we would reduce the amount of parking so that it would be a ratio of 1 space per 100 units, which Jeff, again, testified that was, per his parking plan, more than enough than what would be needed, per his parking study, excuse me. And then the other part of that was to be able to, the LDO would require us to put parking like at the back and on the sides, which was something our neighbors told us they didn't want. They would prefer it to be up next to Jones Dairy. So that's part of that request as well.
Do you have a visual of that?
Yeah, I can go back to the concept plan. So this is where the parking's going to be up here. If we weren't seeking this relief through the alternative parking plan, we'd have to we'd have to put it, like in our original concept, we had some parking back here, and that was expressed to us that they didn't want parking back there. They would prefer the parking to be over here.
So how many spaces does that equate to, though? One for every 100?
Yeah, so like if you did, 500-600 units, you'd have 5 or 6 parking spaces. And I'll just say that, like, I've worked on, and I've talked to some of y'all about this, I've worked on other self-storage projects in Raleigh, and, I'm for like a big 4-story project, and Raleigh doesn't have any parking minimums, so you don't have to provide any parking. So they just provide kind of what it needs. I mean, there's like 4 parking spaces for like a big 4-story facility. And the study in your packet, again, they went out and studied and looked at how many people on a Saturday were coming to park there, and it's not much. He said that a ratio of 1 for over 200 units would be, based on that study, would be sufficient. So this is 1 for 100. So this will be more than sufficient, according to the traffic.
I remember most of that conversation, but was something mentioned about if there were more than 5 cars or 6 cars, what would happen with those cars? Wasn't there something mentioned? I just can't remember exactly what it was.
You have to come up, introduce yourself, and
So is it parking on Jones Dairy?
give us your name and address.
So my name's Garrett Frank, 1286 Sandy Branch Church Road. That's Bear Creek. So the parking study that Jeff performed, it resulted in a need of parking of approximately 1 to like 233 spaces, or per 1 space per 233 units. This did include, when they did their inventory of existing parking use in a similar Wake Forest facility, between the access to like the actual units themselves in the exterior and the front parking lot, there was never more than 3 cars and accessing the units and also parked in the front parking lot in a 1-hour time period on a Saturday. So with an all peak, because self-storage doesn't really have a peak hour like 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So they monitored parking all day on a Saturday, and from like 7 o'clock to 7 p.m. And within every hour, there was no more than 6 cars visiting the facility, and that includes accessing a rear unit or parking in the front of the facility in a parking space.
So if you rent a unit in there, say towards the back or something, are you able to drive back there and park in front of your unit, unload and all that stuff? Or you have to park in this parking lot and carry everything back there?
No, the rear units you can access via your car, and you can back up and.
So why would you ever park if you had a unit back there?
You wouldn't. I'm just saying that those people were accessing.
That's why the gates are there, because everybody can get back there to their units. But, somebody coming in to rent a unit or, pick up some move-in supplies. But again, it's not you don't need a lot of parking spaces generally for a self-storage facility.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
That was my question, because I'm like, what is that? I don't understand the argument for the parking.
absolutely.
All right, ma'am,
Yes.
could you go to slide 9,
What's on that slide?
an image? You said this was an example.
Oh, yeah, yeah, like examples
Slide
of
9.
other new
Well,
ones.
slide 21, slide 9 on mine. Okay, is this an illustration, does it demonstrate the minimum of the 10% brick or stone or concrete masonry that you talked about?
I don't think so, no. This is more just to show like the style of these newer facilities. The idea would be that it would be a mix of EIFS and brick or masonry, and that would be, what the facade looks like.
And then your hours of operation, one of the parents here a couple months ago had a question about lights.
Yes. Yeah, so, let's see. So we're restricting the hours of access to the exterior access units, locking these gates between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. So the idea would be that you wouldn't have people back there in the middle of the night. And then we also have a condition that we had last time, but, this was a concern that had been raised to us since the very beginning. And so early on, we added this to make sure that we're exceeding the requirements of the LDO and providing those full cutoff, like the most shielded light fixtures, to make sure that we're taking care of the light pollution concern.
Will you do the full cutoff?
Correct. Yeah. So your code requires cutoff, and we're going to do full cutoff.
Okay.
Yeah.
That answers your question,
Yes,
Commissioner?
sir. It does.
Any other questions from this side for the counselor?
Mayor Kern, would the lights in the area beyond the gates be turned off after 10 p.m.?
Yeah. I don't. Yeah. Do you want to speak to that? Sure.
So like, is it on a dimmer or is it just on?
My name's Brian Holder. I'm with Rivercrest, the developer, 8816 Six Forks Road. So the lighting plan is, there are only 2, maybe 3 pole lights in the facility at all, and those are going to be in the front and the parking lot. The rest of the lighting will be building mounted, full cutoff in the interior corridor.
Yeah.
So that it'll be lit in the interior corridor here, right? So you would not be able to see fixtures from outside. I think they'll be at 12 feet and the building height's like 15, so they'll be below the building height, obviously. So you have, I think there are 2 or 3 poles up here that I think are only 12 or 18 feet. They're pretty short, but that's not inconsistent with the roadway, obviously. And then everything else is lit interior. You can't shut all the lights off because of security. Somebody could jump fences. We have there'll be cameras internally, along those aisles and stuff, monitoring the facility for security. So you can't shut them all off. You can, though, cut, and we've been discussing this, going to sort of half, right? So you have, when it's open from up until 10 p.m., you have it very bright. You wouldn't say very bright, but you want it bright back there for safety and for people loading their stuff. And then after that, you can shut some of the lights off and then make it sort of a security level lighting with the cameras.
So you would be able to see somebody back there after 10 o'clock?
Yeah, oh, yeah, it's not, it'll be lit.
Well, enough for security.
Enough for security, yeah, that's the
what he's
point.
trying to say.
Okay, because when you said it would be cut completely off,
No,
I was
half, you
thinking
can say
security.
cut half of them off, keep enough lighting back there to make sure it's secure. But with the full cutoff fixtures, I mean, that's dark sky compliant. The theory there is you don't see anything above the fixture itself.
Answer
Any
my
questions?
question?
Thank
Okay,
you.
answer it.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Wait, I'm sorry, there's one other question about the garage doors. No, I'm sorry. No. The garage door, someone said something about the sounds.
Yeah, so that was one of the main concerns that we heard about having the exterior access units, about being able to hear a garage door going up at 2 o'clock in the morning. And so that's why we added that condition, to make sure we're reassuring folks that, we're not going to have people pulling up a garage door at 2 a.m.
10 to 6.
So you're not 24/7 operation.
The
10 to 6.
The interior ones, yeah, I think you could get into those later but you have to come in through the front, I believe.
So are they that loud, though? Say 9 o'clock at night?
Sound carries.
I think
Sound
reasonable
carries.
minds can differ about how, the nuisance of a garage door going up, but that was the concern that we heard, and so we were trying to respond to that.
So access will be cut off to those as well at 10 o'clock, right?
These gates, we're going to cut off access.
Okay.
Yeah,
I was confused there for
Yeah.
just a second.
sure.
But not everyone has to get to the access it through a car, right?
Well,
If I have to run,
So like I've personally rented a unit that had limited hours of access, and you can't, like, your code doesn't work, you can't get
Gotcha.
back there, yeah.
Any other questions on this end down here?
No, sir.
Any questions
my
for the
questions.
counselor? Okay, well, thank you. Appreciate that. We will, Michael, did you want to do a follow-up? Okay, so now we will have any comments from the public in favor of this proposal? And also any comments in opposition? Come back up again. You don't have to state your name and all again.
Thank you. I wouldn't say we're directly in opposition. That's really, we had all of those concerns, which I think at this point you're all aware of, which had not been addressed. There was a meeting on February 13th. Very few of us knew about it, and everything was left up in the air. Well, we'll think about it. Now, Ashley, I really appreciate that you guys went out of your way to address those concerns. I think our question in the community, because our bedrooms face that stormwater area, is, are these commitments absolutely set in stone once the zoning is passed? Because we understand once the zoning is passed, we don't really have any further recourse. Is that correct?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I'll let the attorney address the validity of the conditions, I guess.
So things that are merely said at the hearing by the applicant or by any of the parties are not enforceable. What is enforceable are the conditions, including the concept plan. So the concept plan shown and the language that is provided by the conditions. If there is something that the board has heard beyond the conditions, those things should be discussed with the applicant to be added as conditions. But once they're conditions, they are enforceable, and any change would require a rezoning case.
So, I mean, our main questions have been addressed. They were lighting. That seems like a simple fix. They were some kind of screening, because literally we look out the back of our homes on that area, and they've addressed that, but I don't understand what level of commitment is there. And of course, the noise is another issue, which they have stated that they're committed to that. But again, do we have any recourse once the zoning is passed?
Okay.
So really, those are our concerns, because this is really going to strongly impact our neighborhood. We understand there'll be 9 to 10 months of very loud construction going on. So it's really going to impact the peace of our neighborhood. So we just want to make sure that all of these conditions that have now been met are actually going to take place.
Okay, thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Appreciate that. Any other comments? Come on up, state your, I think this is your first time tonight anyway, so state your name and address, if you would, for the
Hey,
record.
everybody, Cliff Hamill, 228 Tortuga Street. One of the things I was concerned about was they say they want to put a time limit on when you can access these units, but is that like deed transferable, is what I was wondering? Or do they just sell it and the zoning comes in and says, oh, we don't want to do that, you know, that kind of thing. That's all I had to say.
Thank you. Appreciate that. We'll try to get the answer to that. Any other comments from, because I probably won't ask for the public comments anymore. What I will do at this point in time, Michael, just for the benefit of the board and maybe some of the folks that's attending tonight, briefly cover the conditions of this
Go through the
application, if you would.
Sure.
So we can kind of understand the conditions.
That way or that?
I think mainly what I kind of heard had to do with the lighting, had to do with the hours operation. It had to do with the vegetation buffer, I think.
One slide.
And
there it
access
is.
to the building after hour type things, so
Sure,
those are the main conditions.
So the screen on the monitors here details the 7 conditions. One is general compliance with the concept plan. So the drawings that you've seen tonight, the building, the site, the pond, the gate locations, all of that. That's the general layout that would be expected to be submitted on a future site development plan. So those generalities of the project would be committed to here. Number 2 is about the vegetation within 55 feet of the rear property line. That would be the property line adjacent to the residential subdivision. That will not be disturbed. And number 3 is about light fixtures being those full cutoff varietals, which is again more restrictive than the LDO currently minimally requires. Number 4 is about trees adjacent that ACT electric property, the property to the southeast. Should they be removed, that similar evergreen trees would be replanted. So either keep the existing trees as screening there or replant with similar evergreen types, evergreen types to replace those. So number 5 is, I think it's a 75% standard of minimum pollinator plants to go in that stormwater control pond when it does get planted and vegetated, which is one of the minimum requirements. So pollinator plants in there. So limits of hours of operation, right, for the exterior accessed units to be 10 to 6, 10 p.m. to 6 p.m., so there's no access. So this is only open from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. Again, that's for the exterior access. So those 3 buildings that ring the site, where you could drive your car back there, that's where the lift up,
That's where the
garage doors
doors,
would be.
the
Right.
doors are.
That would be shut down between 10 p.m. and 6 p.m., but it does sound like the internally accessed building, which is the main building in the center, would have access 24/7. And I believe you directly access that from the parking lot area. So you wouldn't go through those 2 gates you saw. To get there, you would go through some other pass-coded door to get into that building. And of course, then I think the idea is any noise created in the building would be muted by the building itself. You wouldn't hear that activity outside. And then number 7 is commitments to architectural materials. Again, on those facades that the exhibit showed facing the neighborhood, the ACT property, and Jones Dairy Road. So anywhere that those buildings would be seen from the outside of the property would have a higher level of architectural materials, which was masonry products, brick-like materials, et cetera. So not corrugated metal as an example material. That could not be put on the facades of the buildings facing those 3 directions. So that's the 7 conditions being proposed.
Okay, well, thank you. I think, Tony, you answered this question one time before, but just for the record again, if it's a condition, it cannot be changed unless it comes back to the board to change a condition in public hearing and all that kind of stuff, right?
Correct. The conditions are locked in once the board votes. We adopt that in the form of an ordinance. The conditions are part of that. And then those conditions, because they are an ordinance, they run with the land by statute. So if this applicant were to sell the property later, the new owner would be burdened with the same set of conditions.
And the process to change that is more than just getting staff approval.
It would come back with a new number and would be a new zoning case to start over. It would be a zoning amendment, which follows the same process as a zoning case.
Public hearing and everything.
It would be identical to this.
Yeah. Thank you, Michael. Any questions for Michael on this?
I do have just a quick
Okay.
question. Like I had asked before, okay, so at 10 o'clock, you can't go inside of the storage part where the garage door is. But like I said, you can still go inside of the building, correct?
That is my understanding, if the applicant would wish to expand on that.
I can pull up the language real quick.
Yeah.
I have it right here in the presentation. Yeah, so this is exactly what it says. Gates to access areas with exterior access storage units shall be locked between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. So it would be a zoning violation if we were to have these not locked and letting people back there in the middle of the night.
So someone can go in from 6 o'clock?
Like nobody can get through these gates between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m.
Right.
Yeah.
But they can still get inside of the building?
Yeah.
Yeah,
If you have an internal one, yeah.
Right.
Right, I believe when this comes through site plan, there would be some form of a access point along this facade here. So again, if you came between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m., you could park in the parking lot and get inside this building.
Okay.
That's
and go
when you
to
have to
your
use the parking lot.
interior,
Yeah.
rental
Right.
unit. Yes.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
thank you. Okay, so where are we now? I think at this point in time, I'm going to ask the board one last time. Any questions for any of the staff or the applicants?
So I only have one question. The outer exteriors on this stuff, in the summary, it kind of like gives a generic version of it, but on the slide 13, it gives a specific on it. I just want to make sure that we're going to follow that, what's on slide 13, your condition 7. Yes, the language, okay. All right, I just want to make sure that's tied to that. Yes. Okay, okay.
The exact full conditions are an attachment
Yep,
to your report,
okay,
will
yep.
be part of the ordinance adoption.
Yep.
Very good.
The owner's not here tonight, right?
Who?
The
The
owner?
property owner,
Property owner.
no.
That is, yeah.
Okay.
So how does that work when the
One-
landowner's not here, but the realtor's here?
Yeah,
That's because they gave the permission to the realtor to do this?
Correct. The zoning application does not need to be filed by the owner. It just needs to be signed evidencing their consent.
I was just wondering.
Yep.
All right, thanks. I'm good.
So, good question.
Did you have a question?
Dan?
It's more of a comment than a question,
Mhm.
which has to do with our LDO. On this one, mic is on. Our LDO, which is our guideline that we use, that our staff work very hard on it. So we definitely should be mindful of that, and that any changes that needs to happen to it need A and B come from our staff and our planning, not the developer or the applicant. It should be the vision of Roseville, not the vision of anyone that want to come inside town.
Okay. Any questions for staff or anybody? Well, once I close the public hearing, we will not have any more questions, but I will turn it over to the board for deliberations and a decision. So, everybody ready? All right, I'm closing the public hearing. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Meredith. Appreciate that. I think the first item to vote on is the proposed motion for the TA, the text amendment. You can find that on page 19, I think. So it's up to the board.
I move to approve text amendment request TA 22-02, self-storage use.
All right, I have a motion on the table. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Any more discussion from the board? Not hearing of any. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay. I counted 3-1. With Commissioner Austin voting in dissent there. So with that, the next item is the series of motions that I think you can find on 25.
26.
So these will be on the map amendment 2209 and the annexation 2208. I think typically we do annexation first. Is that right, Counselor? We need to do the annexation first?
We have adopted as a policy in the past to take the annexation last, even though the other motions will die with no power if that were to fail. And this avoids having to unannex something that you've already voted to annex.
That makes sense. The motions, if we don't annex it, those motions are not going to count.
Correct.
All right. So with that, the first motion would be either to approve or deny the map amendment 2209 for Jones Dairy Storage.
I move to approve make a motion to approve the rezoning request, MA 22-09 for the Jones Dairy Storage.
All right. I got a motion on the table. Is there a second?
Second.
A motion is second. Any other discussion from the board? Not hearing any. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no.
Nay.
Okay, so I'm sorry I didn't vote because I'm just struggling here. Okay, so I'm struggling here because I just really hate to see something like this inside of a community. But I understand the purpose of why we did the text amendments and what have you. Any words, any attorney, you always have something to say. Help me with this because I just hate seeing that inside of a residential community.
Madam Commissioner, I don't have anything for you. The vote is yours.
I'm going to have to vote nay on this.
That leaves the vote as a 2-2 tie, and the mayor will cast the deciding vote.
I cast my vote as yay. So that one
knew you would.
carries, Madam Clerk. Now, I'm entertaining a motion for the consistency statement and the reasonability this statement, MA 2209. I'll put that out on the table for a motion.
Move to adopt a plan consistency statement and statement of reasonableness with MA 22-09.
All right, so we got a motion for approval. Is that right, Commissioner?
Yep.
Approval for the plan commission consistency statement and the statement of reasonability. Any second on that one?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Not at this time.
Not hearing any. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed?
Nay.
I think that was 3-1. 3-1 on the reasonability and consistent statement. Number 3 is a motion to approve or deny the alternative parking plan per the evidentiary quasi-judicial hearing. That was a few weeks ago. So I entertain a motion to approve or deny.
I'll make a motion to approve the alternative parking plan per the evidentiary quasi-judicial hearing.
I hear that as a motion to approve.
Yes.
Is there a second to that one?
Second.
A motion and a second. Any other discussion from the board?
No, sir.
Any other discussion? Not hearing any. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nay.
I'm sorry, there was an aye on my part.
That was aye?
Yes.
I think that one approved 3-1. Commissioner Austin voting in dissent on that one. And lastly, motion to approve and deny voluntary annexation petition, MAX 2208 for Jones Dairy Storage.
Move to approve voluntary annexation petition received under GS 160A-31 for ANX 22-08 Jones Dairy Storage.
Is there a second on that one?
I'll second.
Okay, a motion to approve has been made and second. Any other discussion? Not hearing any. All in favor say aye.
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 I will keep it consistent. Nay.
Okay. So I think that was another, Madam Clerk, 3-1, if I heard that correctly. Commissioner Austin voting in dissension there. So that's it, I think. Is that correct?
You're all done with this one?
All right. So we're going to close this case. Appreciate that. And I want to really thank the citizens for coming out. You know, we had a couple of long nights on it. Some of you may be the first time here. You may miss the first night. I know some of you probably been in both of them. So I think the board, you know, really took their time in trying to think this out. And still, it's not a unanimous decision, as you probably can see there. But I do want to thank the citizens. And sounds like, you know, some of the comments that was made there towards the end, you developers did a pretty good job of meeting with them and trying to address as many of the things that you can address. So appreciate that from both sides. So thank you very much. Appreciate y'all coming out.
Rodney, I would just like to say something, that I think you did work well with the citizens in that community. But for me, I said no, and then I said yes, because you want the other things to still line up, which is why I said yes. But really, why I said no is what I had stated. It's commercial and residential property, when it comes down to it, in the most simplest terms. But I think you worked really well with them in trying to accommodate what they wanted, the best for what could come out of the situation. So I do thank you for that. And I thank the citizens that came out and spoke tonight. So.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. All right, we got some new business on the agenda tonight that we need to get through. We'll see where we at 9 o'clock. I may call for a break around 9. I'm not sure how far you will get by then, but the new business is some kind of LDO round 4 type items. I think it requires a legislative hearing on those.
That is correct.
So I'm going to open the public hearing, and staff, looking for your report.
Thank you. For your consideration this evening are 3 different text amendments. I like to call them LDO Round 4. It's more for selfish purposes. It just, for some reason, it helps me remember everything and when it happened. So for LDO Round 4, the first item is Text Amendment 2301, notification requirements for neighborhood meetings and legislative hearings. We first brought this back up at your January meeting to talk about what we should do. It came as a concern that the 200-foot distance wasn't quite enough. And the reason it took us an extra month to bring this back to you is that the planning board kept this for an extra month to discuss it. So as mentioned before, we talked about this in January, and it really came up when we were first talking about Tom's Creek, now called Pierce Farm. And, we're thinking about there are businesses and residents nearby, but not within that notification boundary that we were questioning, should they have been notified?
Meredith, will you speak into the mic a little bit more,
Sure.
please? Thank you.
I'll move it closer. Is that better?
It is better.
Okay, yeah, it is. I'm getting a lot of background noise. Okay. So just as a reminder, we looked at what other communities use for their notification distance, Raleigh being at the low end with 100 feet and Cary being at the high end with 800 feet. And our close neighbor, Wake Forest, does a 500-foot notification distance. So the first piece with this text amendment is in section 2.2 of our LDO, and it adds the statement to notification requirements will be followed in accordance with General Statutes 160D unless additional requirements are otherwise noted in the handbook, which is Appendix A of the LDO. The next section in Appendix A that includes a text amendment with this package is for the neighborhood meeting found under rezonings. And just to clean up, we wanted to scratch that the meeting must be held at a municipal facility. It just needs to be somewhere in Rollsville near the project. And the big item 2 changes the notification distance, or proposes to change the notification distance from 200 to 500 feet. And in addition, the owners of property within 200 feet of any roadway improvements, utility improvements would be similarly notified. And homeowners associations would also be notified if residential properties on a neighborhood meeting mailing list are included in such an association. And the notice would be postmarked not more than 25 days, not fewer than 10 days prior to the meeting. So the big change here is going from 200 feet to 500 feet, and then adding that other notification area that is in addition to the boundary of the subject property. It's saying if we know there are roadway improvements or utility improvements or some other improvement, for example, with the Tom's Creek Pierce Farm case, the road improvements to Burlington Mills and Forestville that are identified in the TIA would have notified Kelly Jennings, the owner of Harvest Moon. So. And then the same text is proposed to be added with legislative hearing also in the LDO handbook. And this is just a cleanup because it's in the same section. I threw it into TA 2301. Right now, under withdrawals, it states that the applicant would be precluded from refiling. And typically, you don't see that with a withdrawal, you see it with a denial. So we just wanted to take that out.
Wait a minute, go back for a second. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to absorb this. Give me a minute again.
So if an applicant withdraws, they would be allowed to refile immediately with another application.
So wait, you mean if they come here and it's not going the way they want it to go? And we've had that happen in the past? Is that what you're saying?
Let's see.
Is that what this is saying? Because we've had situations like that where they came back.
Yes.
But then they asked if they could regroup, basically, and come back.
Yes, we've had that happen recently with a few rezoning requests where, it was a request for a straight district, and the applicant was recommended to the applicant that they add a condition to exclude certain uses from their case. So they were able to withdraw their previous application and come back with a new application.
Just to follow up on kind of Commissioner Austin's comment earlier. So where did that request to take out this 6 months come from? Is that from the planning department? Or?
This one, this came from advice from an attorney.
So what they're saying
Our
is
attorney?
they can come back later without having to do the notification again?
Correct. That language is the language that is contained within the rezoning denial section. And then in the LDO handbook, it was repeated under withdrawal. Typically, I don't know that I've ever seen that before, but it looked to be an oversight that it was in the withdrawal section. Typically, if you vote no, you don't want to have to see it again because we want stability with our actions. If you haven't taken any action because for whatever reason, the applicant withdraws the case because they realize that there's no support for it, they realize that the conditions that would be required are not those that would make any sense, they can withdraw it. And if they would like to pursue it again, they'll need to start over in the process. They don't get to come back to the board, but they get to start over at the beginning, but they don't have to wait 6 months first. It takes out the 6-month waiting period, which I don't think we've ever enforced.
Right.
But have we ever had to, though?
In theory, we would have had to do it for those 2 that you sent back, but we only noticed that this was hanging around in the handbook.
Just some cleanup from your perspective.
It's cleanup. If the board really would like to make a 6-month wait on withdrawals, certainly I would suggest leaving it in. That is a unique policy choice.
I was thinking, our thought has always been, now correct me if I'm wrong, board, if we vote, it's a 6-month wait. Or something.
Correct.
Okay, and that's
correct.
where I was going to,
Yeah, this would be where you don't vote.
Right.
So for whatever reason, and in this case, the way it's written, if they withdrew after public notice, that is, the board has not even seen the case, it would be 6 months. So the understanding among real estate, or I should say land use lawyers for a long time has been, as long as you eject from the burning plane before the vote, you have a chance to survive. But if you go to a vote and you don't have the approval, you know that you will have at least 6 months to wait unless you substantially change the project, different zoning district, or you seek a waiver from the board in a separate action.
Okay, so, and there was a case where we had, when Jackie Wilson was still on the board, do you recall that one? Where the board was getting ready to vote? Some words were exchanged, and they're like, oh, we're going to take it back and come back to you. So what is that considered?
So two different things. This is about withdrawal, but it's not about a request for a continuance. So sometimes we have had an applicant realize that they need to do more homework, or they realize they have not addressed neighborhood concerns, and they will ask the board for a continuance. That's not covered by this section. It is only where, as I use the ejection, it's where they are saying, we're walking away from our application, we keep their filing fee, and they have the opportunity to refile in the future. Call it a voluntary dismissal if it were in court.
Yeah, and didn't we do something similar with the across the street thing where we wanted them to do a condition versus
We did.
versus a non-condition?
Arguably, they needed to wait 6 months as this is written.
Right. Now, I don't think we want that. I don't think.
No, because sometimes they're willing to do it, but sometimes you get some cases through planning that you're like, oh my gosh. Because then they can bypass whatever that result is and come here. So then I was thinking, what happens with something like that? And that's what, when I said to bring it back, that's what I was thinking about, where you have somebody go before planning, it's not working out, but they're like, whatever, we're still going to the town board.
Correct. They can choose to do that.
Right.
Imagine, however, they went the other direction, and instead, after having a tough time before the planning board, they decide to withdraw. They regroup. If they do bring it back, it will come with a new case number, and it will start over with staff, TRC, planning board.
Okay.
If they make it all the way to the moment before the mayor calls for a vote, I suppose, if he were willing to acknowledge the floor and the person were to withdraw at that point, same story. They would start new number, new filing fee, TRC, planning board, and you wouldn't see it for months.
Okay. All right. Because I didn't understand it when I saw it, but okay, thank you. And that wasn't in planning.
Yeah.
So at the planning board meeting when we went over TA 2301. The planning board unanimously recommended approval. However, they wanted to add the text off-site improvements following the 200-foot notification of any roadway improvements, utility improvements, and/or off-site improvements. That was their suggestion. And staff does recommend approval of this text amendment with the planning board's suggested addition of off-site improvements.
Is it 500 feet then, or is it 200 feet?
The
Pardon
text
me?
amendment is written with 500 feet now.
Already?
Right now, it's written as 200 feet, so
It's going to be changed.
this is showing 500 feet.
The planning board recommended 500 feet.
Yes.
I thought they said 600. I have that in my notes, it was 600.
There was a lot of discussion back and forth, and it was not consistent across the board. There was one or two members who were throwing out different numbers, and I thought we had settled on the 500 because it matches Wake Forest.
And I thought we went a little bit better than Wake Forest at 600. But either way, it's up to the board, 500 or 600, but I remember hearing around, more than 3 at 6.
We had a lot of discussion about it, yes.
I have a question, Meredith. The
Yes.
off-site, on the next slide, I think it is, the off-site improvements, that would have taken care of Harvest Moon?
Adding the statement about the owners of property within 200 feet of any roadway improvements would have covered it, and off-site improvements as meant to be a catch-all in case there's something else
Okay.
that could come up.
Okay, okay.
If I might suggest to the board, the word "other" be inserted before "offsite." Those are all offsite.
That sounds good.
Insert other in front of off-site.
So other off-site
I'm just a little concerned
improvements.
about the 500 or 600. Does that make a difference? Because I clearly heard the 600. Like
About
you said, it was
100
a lot of
feet.
conversation. What did you say?
About 100 feet of difference.
All right, so now he has things to say, right? But I'm saying, if it's, in your experience, does a 500 or 600 make a big difference in a town like Roseville?
600, 500 is large. The statute provides 100. So you are well in excess of that. Keep in mind also that as you move farther out from the site, every 100 feet is a larger area. So your area is increasing by a square of the.
It's a lot. I'm just asking. But it's okay, I mean, whichever one the board agrees on, I just want to voice that, because and I agree with Meredith, there was a lot of chit chat, not idle chat, but
Right.
there was a lot of conversation
discussion.
about that. But I'm pretty sure we were, when they said 600, I was like, there's nobody that does 600. But, you know.
The board is not bound by the recommendation of the planning
No, I
board, so.
But I think there was some reasoning as to why. I thought that was a huge jump. But if it's 500, I was just saying, have you, in your experience in dealing with different municipalities, is that a big difference with that less of 100? But it's
think-
okay at 500.
Yeah, I think it'd be appropriate when we get ready to make, if that's the only thing at the feet, when we get ready to make the motion, we'll deliberate a little bit on it.
I'm good.
How about that?
500 is fine. We're good.
Anything's better than 200.
It sure is.
Because it's really up to the board. I mean, you
Right.
know, whatever 3 of you want.
Okay. Thanks, Meredith,
Okay,
sorry.
that concludes this text amendment. We have 2 more after this, but I'll wait to see what you want to do with
So
this.
you want to do public hearings separate? Because I'm going to have to close the public hearing to vote on it.
Ooh, I don't know.
I can do it. I mean,
Okay.
I got a call for everybody that's going to speak on it, and you want to do it separate then? Is that,
Keep it, sure, why not? Let's try that, try it
All
on,
right.
keep it clean for each one.
all right, well, first of all, let me call, anybody want to speak, let's say for or against this, this change to the LDO, which means it's a notification to landowners. We're notifying more people of change, of, cases coming in. So anybody want to speak for or against it? All right, not hearing any last closing comments from you before I close it?
No, sir?
Any questions for Murdy before I close it? We'll close the public hearing, and we will take this to a vote. I think there's a motion either to approve or deny with maybe a discussion of mending to from 500 to 600, if somebody want to do that.
Oh, now we have a
I
question.
think I've closed the public hearing, George. I'll get you to speak in a minute. I'll get you to speak in a minute, but we've closed the public hearing for right now. So we'll get you.
It's against what you're gonna do.
Yeah, we'll get you in a minute. So I'm kind of asking the board any,
I make a motion to approve TA 2301 notification distance of $500 with the addition of the,
500 feet.
of 500 feet, $500, 500 feet with the addition of the word other
Offsite improvements.
before offset. Yeah.
I second.
okay, got a motion second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Not hearing any. I think it was unanimous, Madam Clerk. We will take the second item, TA 2302, cluster development. I open the public hearing. Meredith?
All right. TA 2302 is about cluster development. So with cluster developments, I think a lot of our conversation has been focused on lot size. I just want to remind everyone that a cluster development includes 40% open space. I found this picture online. I thought it did a good job of showing the homes grouped together and then the large sections of open space. And I know lot size is a big part of the discussion, so I have some photos that show some different lot sizes to help you all visualize as we have this discussion this evening. So what the picture you're looking at here, the lot is 125 feet across and 120 feet back, and so that equals 15,000 square feet. Here's what a 12,000 square foot lot could look like that has 85 feet of frontage. This is an 8,200 square foot lot with 70 feet of frontage. And this is a 6,500 square foot lot with 50 feet of frontage. And I don't know if these homes are in cluster developments or not. I just wanted to help us visualize lot size. So in the LDO, under residential medium zoning district, there is an option to have reduced building setbacks and lot sizes under the cluster option. So right now, the cluster development lot size in residential medium minimum is 5,000 square feet. And that seems to have been an issue with the town board and planning board over the past several months. So the proposed text amendment is to change the minimum lot size to 7,500 square feet. And that is more consistent with what we have in residential low, and we'll look at that in just a moment. It's half of that size, so 7,500 is half of 15,000. And it's also the same minimum lot size that we have in the residential high zoning district for single-family detached housing. So it's consistent with what we have in residential high being used as a cluster option in residential medium. So again, to get that cluster option, you have to commit to giving that 40% of open space that is mostly contiguous to get that reduced lot size. When thinking about reducing or changing that lot size, wanted to also look at the side setback, corner setback, and lot width, because I thought, if we go from a 5,000 square foot lot to a 7,500 square foot lot, does 40 feet along the front still make sense? I didn't think so, so I'm proposing 50 feet for the frontage as a match to go with the 7,500, 12 feet for a corner setback, and an 8-foot side setback instead of a 5-foot side setback. Did a little sketch so you could help see what that might look like. This drawing on the left shows 3 7,500 square foot lots, and the green space shows where you cannot build on the lot. And then the gray hatching shows the building envelope. That doesn't mean that's the home. That means that's the area you could build in. And then with the proposed amendment, it would be 16 feet between building envelopes, potentially homes, versus 10 feet. And just to, this is to scale, so what a 5,000 square foot lot looks like compared to a 7,500 square foot lot, you can compare in this drawing. So again, with the 5,000 square foot lot, the green space shows the area that you would not be able to build on, and the gray shows the building envelope. In our residential low zoning district, I mentioned before proposing the 7,500 as the minimum lot size for residential medium matches better with what we do in residential low. Right now, the by right lot size for residential low is 20,000 square feet, and with the cluster option in residential low, 10,000 square feet, so we go half there. And I wanted to look at the lot width, corner setback, and side setback with those to make it more consistent. So that's where this proposed amendment comes in with residential low, is just having some consistency if we went forward with, excuse me, what we were showing in residential medium. We, of course, had a lot of discussion at the planning board on this. Several planning board members felt like it would be a lot better to increase the side setback to 9 feet instead of 8 feet, so you'd have 18 feet between homes. It was also suggested by a couple of the members that engineered drainage be required between the homes. There was concern when the homes are closer together, grass won't grow, the drainage isn't working. And then the, excuse me, the planning board also wasn't comfortable with the 7,500 square foot lot. They were more comfortable with the 8,000 square foot lot. So staff recommends approval of the text amendment as written. I did reach out to our town engineer, Colginus Stone Bolton Meek. I don't know if Jacqueline, you're still here, thank you. And got some information from Jacqueline and from Brian Locks. We work with them on our technical review committee. And their recommendation was to include a standard detail. We're getting ready to kick off standard specification and detail manual. Their recommendation is to include a standard detail, but having a minimum 2% grade in between homes instead of requiring engineered drainage at a point like the planning board recommended. So again, staff recommends approval of the text amendment as it is written.
What does 2% drainage mean?
2% means when you grade property, if you want the water to move, you have to have it sloped at least 2%. So 2% probably looks about like that. It's
Going towards the
very slight.
sidewalk, going towards the front of the house?
Going whichever way it needs to go to get the water to move. If
Okay,
you
so
have
to that-
if you have less than 2%, it often will not drain.
It'll pool, right? But with the 2%, that small number, don't you still run the risk of the erosion without a system in place?
I wouldn't think so with 2%. I would worry more about erosion when you have a steeper slope.
Right, but with the steeper slope, as it is now, isn't there some type of drainage under that?
For?
In between the two houses?
No, that was just the planning board recommendation to require engineered drainage between homes.
Oh, but currently there's nothing.
Oh, no, we don't have any kind of requirement like that right now.
I think that there was, maybe it's just my house.
Typically, there's nothing between them?
That I'm not comfortable
think
answering.
my
I think it would
house there
depend
was.
on the development and the builder and however the lots are
Mine
graded.
there was because I'm in a cul-de-sac and we're on a little bit of a slight hill compared to the development behind us. So I know they put that in between. I don't think every house in my community has that. But I think because I seen it and I took pictures. But I think the concern that some of the board members had was what happens with the erosion? Like when you get a lot of rain coming through there, 2%, I mean, is that enough to say it's going to roll towards the front or towards the back?
I think
But you
the-
don't want it to roll towards either house.
I think the erosion concern was coming from a planning board member saying that because the homes are so close together, you're not getting enough sunlight in there for grass to grow, and without having some sort of ground cover, that could lend itself to erosion.
So then that can be a problem. I'm not saying the 2% is good or bad. I don't know. That's my first time hearing about the 2%.
I don't know either.
So this is all new now. But there's got to be a better scenario than 2%.
Standard building pad engineered site will have a grade at least of 2 or 3%. This is to add, as Mr. Marsh mentioned, a standard that Rollsville has rather than using standard engineering standards that are coming from the private sector, there'd be a minimum standard that Rolesville would adopt so that we know that that's in place. But there, as you have seen and as we've all seen in our homes, if the neighborhood is properly designed, the water does drain. It doesn't end up in your crawl space.
That's the main thing.
Okay, so here's one other question, and I'm not expecting you to know or anybody to know the answer right now. So if it's 2% or 3, I don't know which one is better, and say you're having it go towards the front of the house, then where is it going? Like if it's going towards the front, what's the situation then?
It will be part of the stormwater and erosion control plan for the subdivision.
Oh, gotcha. Again, now he has answers for me. Snackaroo over here. Okay, thank you, Meredith.
Sure, thank you.
Good questions. Any other questions for Meredith?
Great presentation, Meredith.
Oh, thank you.
But are we going to go with 2% or 3%? Does it?
We don't know
What
yet.
is that? We
We gotta
don't
do a
know?
public hearing. Still got to do our public hearing.
Okay.
Thank you for the time being.
Certainly.
George, come on up here. I want to hear what you wanted to say. I apologize. I couldn't get you up here, but I closed the public hearing. But come on up here and talk to us for a minute.
My comment may be immaterial because you've already approved
I know,
it.
but I want to hear it anyway.
Well, yeah, you are. You are. When Frank Eagles was mayor here, and you all were approving that preserve on Jones Dairy, we were excluded because there was a limitation. There was a gentleman, black gentleman that was the interim town manager, and then there was the lawyer who was here at the time, and he was a redheaded fellow. I can't remember his name. They changed lawyers here.
He had hair.
Yeah, he did have hair, yes. But the understanding was that it was they were going to expand the radius to somewhere between a quarter of a mile to a half a mile, because when you get out in the ETJ, you're affecting a lot of people, including ourselves, by the decisions that you make. You already approved it. That's fine. Something for the voters to handle later on.
Yeah, I think we increased it to 500, so it went from,
It's an improvement, but the agreement that Frank had at the time, and that you all were here, most of you all, some of you are not guilty parties, but, well, that's enough.
I'm not going to let you off the hook that easy. So now this one we voting on, what's your comment on increasing from 5,000 to 7,500?
I'm sorry?
What is your comment on increasing our lot size from 5,000 to 7,500?
Actually, you're cutting too many trees around here, okay?
Yep.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the public on this one? Last call. Charles, anything you want to, any comments from you?
No, just a sidebar, the Chandler Ridge. Does
Front, please, sir.
anybody know?
Sir?
Come up. I don't think
Cut to the
Dan
front.
know you, Charles. Come up, introduce yourself, and
And I have artillery ears, so.
I'm sorry,
Can
I had a total hip replacement a few months ago, so that's why I have the cane.
Look at the
and
man get up.
It's good to get up, you know. Just out of curiosity, I was, when I walked around Chandler Ridge, because it's right back of my development, the lot size are really, really nice lot size compared to some of the other developments I've seen. I was just curious about, anybody know what size those lots, and they do vary.
The ones in the back is a minimum of 30.
30,000. Oh, okay, all right, yeah, okay. Just curious, yeah.
Yep.
But there's houses are
You don't
going
see
from
many that big.
$630 to $700,000, I think.
Yeah, don't see many that big. But thank you, Charles.
That's affordable housing, right, Michelle?
Yep.
I wish.
I don't see anybody else, so Meredith, any comments, any closing comments? So just refresh the board, the staff is recommending 7,500. That's what's in your
Yes,
recommendation?
this is, this shows the changes for the residential medium zoning district, changing the minimum lot size from 5,000 to 7,500 with some adjustments to some of the setbacks to be proportional
Okay,
to that size.
all right, thank you. So I'm going to close the public hearing. It's up to the board. You can approve, deny, or make the motion to change from what is in your packet
I
at
want to make a
7,500.
motion. What page is it on?
Well, before you do that, I'd like to make a request to change from
That's what I'm talking
8
about.
feet on the side to 10 feet minimum.
And from 7,500 to 8,000.
So you just have to you have to add all that in the motion.
Okay, thanks a lot. But let me try to find it, because I was zipping through pages. Anybody have it up? What page you have it on?
110?
110, thanks,
Then,
Dan.
yep.
Is that the planning
110.
board recommendation?
Yes, sir.
One of them is.
Yeah,
The 8,000 is.
The 8,000.
The 10 foot's
It'd be
mine.
easier just to make the recommendation for, with the planning board.
Well, we didn't already on the last one, but that would be the 8. Okay, so wait, oof. You said page 110?
Yes.
All right, maybe I'm not seeing it. Let me put my glasses on.
Here, it's up
Oh, here it is. There you go. All right,
There it is.
crap.
Just change out 9 to a 10 if you are okay with that.
Okay, so I make a motion that we, okay, so wait. I was
Let me-
wondering why I was
you want me
struggling. I didn't realize I didn't have mine. Okay. I'm gonna have to read it from here if you don't mind. That we, increase the planning board, no, I make a motion for TA 2302. Can I put the revisions in it as I'm saying it? Okay. Increase the minimum setbacks, side setbacks to 10
10 feet.
to 10 feet. And we increase the minimum lot size in residential medium to, oh, it already says 8,000 square feet.
Okay.
That's from the planning board, yep.
Ah, well, that's what I make a recommendation based on for the planner, for the town board. And I'm sorry I said that all really squirrely because I thought it was written a little bit differently, but
I'll second.
Okay, so we got a motion on the table and a second to basically go by the
I'm sorry.
planning board's recommendation of increasing the setbacks to 9, which is larger, and also
To 10.
the 8,000 square feet on the minimum lot size.
you said that was 10?
10, yeah.
10.
10.
From 9 to 10.
10,
So 10. and the
So
8.
is there I already got a second, is any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Didn't hear any. Madam Clerk, that one approved. Thank you, Meredith. We've been going 2 hours now. I'm gonna call for a break to 9:10.
Wait,
by
Ronnie,
that-
I just want a quick
that
question.
clock right there.
Do we have several other developments coming down the pike already, right?
Yes.
Do you know how many? Can you tell me later? Because I know he's closing it for a break.
Yeah.
I'm a little
Yeah.
curious about that. Okay, sorry, Ronnie.
That's no problem.
Mayor Curran, before we break, if I could, the motion did not include the other items relating to engineered drawings versus 2% slope or any of those items. Would the board prefer to refer that back to staff so that can come back in the future once some engineering expertise can guide us on that?
That'd be fine.
Okay.
We're just increasing the two dynamics right now.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I think that's fine.
Yeah, no, that's good. Yep.
All right.
Threw me off with the 10.
Sorry.
So we're going to be adjourned. We'll start back at 9:10 by that clock right there. So thanks, everybody. we left off with one of the items from the LDO Round 4. This one would be TA 2303, vape and tobacco store.
Great.
All yours, Meredith.
Thank you.
Let me open the public hearing. Open the public hearing.
Sure. So it was brought to my attention that there was some concern with, I don't know if it was one school board member or multiple school board members about vape and tobacco stores being located within a certain distance of schools. So this text amendment addresses that concern and proposes to add vape and tobacco store as a separate use in our principal use table, and that it would be permitted in general commercial, commercial highway, and general industrial. And along with those districts, there are use standards defined here. Any established, or saying here, vape and tobacco store is any establishment that is a retail outlet specializing in the selling of e-cigarettes, e-juice, and other vaping products. Vape and tobacco store shall be located at least 1,000 feet away from public or private schools, and a vape and tobacco store cannot be closer than 1,000 feet to another vape and tobacco store. We had an interesting discussion at the planning board. Several planning board members did not think this was a good idea. They thought the vape and tobacco store should be looked at like any other retail business and not singled out. So the planning board recommended denial of this text amendment with a vote of 3-2. And some members noted if the town board of commissioners chose to carry this amendment forward, one board member recommended adding the CBD THC dispensaries to the amendment, and another board member recommended adding a definition for vape and tobacco stores to section 11 of the LDO. So staff recommends approval of TA 2303 with the addition of a definition in section 11 that would read retail outlets specializing in the selling of electronic cigarettes, electronic juice, and other vaping products.
Any questions for Meredith, for the staff? My understanding, in talking to the school board official, is, these shops are targeting schools now. They're locating them right close or across the street from the school. And, teenagers are hanging out in there when they're not in school. So that's that was the request from the school board anyway. And I think there was examples already where they located them across the street.
I do have a question. So what if someone does come to us with this CBD THC? Why is that not addressed in here?
It is not addressed because the amendment topic that was brought to staff was just for vape and tobacco store, so we weren't considering that item. If the planning board, one planning board member did bring it up, so if that's of interest to the board, we can certainly add it.
I think that it is a concern. It should be a concern because they are everywhere. And it's just a matter of time before one may come to Rollsville. CBD store? Yeah. We just had one.
Yeah.
Would you say we already have one?
And a vape store.
In the Food Line Plaza?
Are their clientele teenagers or more of adult?
I think it's more adults.
Yes, that is true. That is true. Yes, that is
I think there were more adults. I really didn't, not that I was sitting there looking out the window, but I really didn't see a lot of teenagers going in there. Not to say that they did not. But even with that store, sometimes it's for pets too.
Yeah.
So I think the vaping as a whole, it's in a whole different category because of the damage, to the lungs and what do you call that?
Damage to lungs, brains.
Medical research that's been done on vaping.
Yes.
So I think that's probably why Lee County, the school board, the school system is having these concerns. I don't know, I haven't spoken to anybody on that board. I probably should have.
Well, I definitely understand her concern. For example, just during the March Madness, I saw 2 commercials about vaping, and it dealt with high school kids. One was a young lady that was, the team was leaving, and she was looking underneath the locker for her vapes item, and the team left her. The another one was a young lady that was part of a track team trying to give the baton to the next young lady. Everybody else had already had passed the baton and gone, and she was out of breath, and she ended up passing the baton too late. But it was targeting teens, and I did some research on this. It said at least 44% of teens in the United States attend school within 1,000 feet of tobacco retailer or smoke vape shops, and 77% of the public schools are within a 10-minute walk of those type of retailers. Now, here in our town, we don't have our schools near there at all, so that's not a concern right now. But 1,000 feet is only, what, like a block and a half, maybe? So we don't have that on the opposite side of any of our schools right now, which
But
is
don't, the
great.
commercial, it's commercial set for Roseville High School on the corner. That's commercial.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So it's not, it could be us.
Right, and 1,000 feet is not enough.
So let me ask this question. So with the general industrial, if I'm remembering correctly, that is the 2 monument spots on Roseville on Main Street? Isn't that within 1,000 feet of Roseville Elementary?
If it was someone, and if this were part of our LDO, they wouldn't be able to put one there.
So then another question, if I have this correct in my brain. So if those spots are general industrial, is a vape and tobacco shop a Main Street front and center store?
I don't think they do a lot of standalones. Most of the time, they show up in shopping center type environments. I think it's kind of what I've seen, you know.
I've seen so far.
Storefronts rather than have a big building. It's just a little store in a shopping center. And naturally, a lot of shopping centers are close to schools because, you know, the business and stuff. And
So let me ask you this, are there other things that we could do other than saying no to a business coming? And I say that, not lightly. I mean, I understand what the school board is trying to accomplish. But instead of saying no to another business, aren't there other repercussions that can be put in place? You know, just like if you're caught selling alcohol to somebody underage.
yeah, you're not saying no. I mean, they.
Yeah.
I mean, right, you're in a
Anywhere on
sense,
Rogers Road, there's
you're in a
plenty of
sense saying
places
no
to
to
put-
less than 1,000 feet. And I understand, I'm all for it. My kids are older, and they don't vape, but that's just mine.
I mean, there's very few places, you know, that it would apply to.
In Roseville, you mean?
Mayor Kern, I would bring to the board's attention that the title is vape and tobacco store. However, the planning board's definition does not include tobacco products that we might think of as traditional tobacco products. I don't know whether that was intentional or an oversight, but cigarettes, cigars, loose tobacco, accessories, pipes, those kind of specialties are not currently in the vape and tobacco store definition.
Do we have a definition? You putting a definition in there, Meredith?
Right here, retail outlets specializing in the selling of electronic cigarettes, electronic juice, and other vaping products.
So that knocks out Food Line and Dollar
So
General.
I think what he's saying, it should say other tobacco and vaping products. Is that what he?
You could say that. I know when I was,
Does it include tobacco?
I wasn't sure what the intent was. I didn't know if we wanted to change it to vape store or whether we wanted to also prohibit more traditional tobacco products.
I think it's the products because you can always change the name of your store.
The definition.
Oh, by
Yeah, the
definition. Oh, okay.
So my question is, this might be a dumb question, but so right now we're thinking kind of small, you know, everything's around schools and this and that and everything else. But what happens around recreational areas the town owns that aren't around a school? Let's say like down Jonesville Road per se. If we own a piece of property that's a playground and there's commercial right there, what stops you from putting a vape shop right there as well?
But we're trying to deal with the school board.
I'm just saying, because I mean, we're expanding. We're going to have parks in other areas. That's a concern, the recreation part of it.
Well, to respond to that, in our LDO, electronic gaming establishments have to be a certain distance away from schools, churches, and parks,
Okay,
or places of worship and parks.
okay.
All right. Let's see if any public want to speak on this. So, thank you, Meredith. Come up, state your name, address for the record, and
Margaret Watkins, 407 Belmont Court. I can't remember which one of you guys said it, but I'm in agreement with the keeping the vape, the tobacco shops, and the CBD or whatever it's called, the THC, whatever those shops are called, as far away from the schools, the playgrounds, as you can possibly get. I have known people that have done those things, and it looks, smells just like the real thing. I don't particularly want my kids around it. And that's pretty difficult for me to say because I have a husband that owns a small business, but that's a major concern, I think, for parents. So anyway, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you. We're good. I don't see anybody else that wants to speak, so Meredith, come up. Any closing thoughts?
No, sir?
I would say, we don't want to do something just off the cuff. It is interesting that they brought up about the CBD, and I think that's been brought up here a couple times. Maybe give some thought to that. Do we want to include that as a usage in the future? But I would say rather than doing something spontaneous, that we will, go through our proper chambers to get everybody, talking about it. And the public in here able to speak on it if they see it coming up about CBDs, because, we do have quite a few businesses here in town and merchants that does
I don't-
that.
Age limit on CBD?
I don't know, but it's not all about getting high with CBD.
I think
Right.
it's not about getting high. I
Right.
don't think
No,
you
it's
can
a-
with CBD.
It's a lot of
But
muscle
I don't know
type
enough
things.
about it to know, is it something kids would go for? I know municipal, medical reasons.
Medicinal, yeah.
Medicinal,
Yeah.
whatever it is. So I don't know enough, so I can't say add CBD or THC because I don't know enough about it.
I think I'd like to have something in place minimum, though. Just because if we have something come in the door tomorrow, and then they're already grandfathered in. If we don't have something, at least saying the 1,000 feet for the vape stores.
Yeah,
For
I
vape,
think
yes,
we.
but not for CBD.
No, just for the.
Yeah, I think we do, and that would be a separate issue anyway.
Yeah, and then we could add to this as we need it, but I'd like to have something in place at least.
Well, I'm going to close the public hearing if you don't have any other comments. Public hearing's closed. Board, I'm open to suggestions on whether you want to approve or deny TA 2303.
Okay, so I just want to say one other thing. That I really wish we could have gotten the chief's input on this.
You do that every time I
I
close the
know it,
public
I
hearing.
know, I know. I'm so sorry. Is it too late? Is it too late?
It's too late, ain't it, Attorney?
I wish I could say that it is. It's entirely in the judgment of the mayor. The board can
Let's hear it.
use whatever evidence it wishes to consider this. You've satisfied the public hearing component.
Let's do it like this. I'll allow this. You ask the chief a question, and I'll allow him to answer it.
Okay, that sounds
So
good.
you ask him a question.
All right, so I won't ask how many because that's hard. But do you find a lot of the students, a lot of underage students, whether it's in the school or just, well, in your line of work, are you finding a lot of students under the age of 18 having access to vaping and their little jewels and their little, all this, everything that goes along with vaping?
Yes.
Ugh, that's so sad.
We, we do a daily report for patrol, beginning at the end of every shift to kind of report back. With the high school, the SROs do one as well. And it's almost weekly that a student has been found to be in possession of a vape, and a majority of the time here lately, it has contained THC, which is one of the marijuana kind, which is illegal. So that's been very big here lately.
Okay.
Different than, if I may add on, the CBD is different. Some of the studies out there, parents are giving CBD to children to treat for different medical reasons. So I do think that's a whole different game. But vapes, yes, very, very prevalent in the schools.
Answer your question.
He did, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you. All right, so I ask the board for consideration.
I move to approve TA 23-03 vape and tobacco stores.
I second.
Motion second, any other discussion? Not hearing any, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Unanimous, Madam Clerk, thank you. So that takes care of these round 4. Will be exciting to see round 5 coming up soon. So now we have community group funding applications received and appointment of application review committee. So who was going to review this? Were you going to review this, or?
Tonight, your action is simply to appoint a committee of 2.
Okay.
To review with the clerk and town attorney input on validity of the applications and come back in a month with recommendations.
Okay. I think Paul's been working on that committee, so I'll appoint Paul. Does anybody want to volunteer to work with Paul on it? It has
I'm not
plenty of
shaking my
time.
head in a negative way. I just get so many people coming to me because this all started out because what was going on at Roseville High School with me and Frank, and we're like, we need a committee to do this. So I like staying removed away from it. I'm not trying to get out of doing any work, but I just feel like people are always asking me, does the town have money? What can I do? So. you're doing
So
a good
April,
job.
I think Dan will do it unless do you want to do it?
He's welcome to. I've done it for the past 2 years with
Oh,
Paul,
okay.
so either one.
Go ahead. You want to, I know you got a lot on your plate.
I think we should rotate it.
Yeah, okay. You want to rotate it?
Yeah, like every year, like rotate it.
All right, so I'll appoint Dan and Dan and Paul. So,
Sounds good to me.
And again, I wasn't trying to get out of anything.
No.
I really
understand.
wasn't.
No.
Now I'm going to tell everybody I know.
So look for a communication from the town clerk, Dan and Paul, about how you want to proceed. Probably a kickoff meeting review of the applications would be appropriate, virtual between you all or something, and check out the validity, make sure to meet the guidelines and such, and then after that, you can determine to what extent you want to interview or how you want to go after that.
Okay. Sounds good.
yeah, and I mentioned to you guys earlier, last week, I guess, Representative James Robinson has been talking about having an Eastern Boys Girls Club. He thinks this would be in Zebulon, and wants the eastern towns to pitch in. I think overall, as the years go on, I think Wake County has said that they would help, long term, but the request, I think, is for $500 a month from each town, so. I don't know if that's been you haven't seen official request on that or anything. I know I've asked for it if they want an official request, but.
I have not. I couldn't understand if it was $500 from each for a total of $6,000 or $500 a month.
My
from each.
understanding is 500 from each town each month.
That's $6,000.
Yeah, so that'd be $25,000 probably to do that.
That's an amazing program if no one's familiar with it. They do a lot with so little.
It don't sound, I don't know how much it costs a kid per month, but that's probably not a bad amount, but we'll see if we get I think we need a presentation or more information before we move on that, but. So with that, I will look for any communications from town attorney.
Very quickly, I expect I may be asking the manager and the mayor to add a settlement agreement to our work session at our next meeting, as it appears that we've had one of our outstanding eminent domain matters looks to have settled, and approval of that settlement agreement would require action by the board. Normally, we we try to do that at the first meeting of the month. But if it pleases the board, I'd like to not let it sit if we have an opportunity to resolve it. And I expect that we will need to go into closed session at our next regular meeting to consider a new matter relating to town hall, unless there's progress made on that front. Otherwise, those are the only things.
Thank you, sir.
Anything else?
That's it.
All right, thank you. Town manager.
Couple items. Good Friday is this Friday. That is a recognized North Carolina holiday. We also have adopted that as our holiday, and so Town Hall is closed on Friday. Your next meeting is April 18th. It's a work session. You'll be having the delivery of the recommended budget. It's also the kickoff of the Roseville Road, Young Street, Averett Road corridor study, where the consultant will come in and kick off with you on that discussion for that meeting. And then there's also the report out, as Michael talked about, on the economic development, Wake County Economic Development Review, that we'll have a consultant come in and talk to you about that. I know we have a contract in place with the same company who provided the new telephones. They have purchased a new AV for this system, for this room. So I don't know, I don't have a schedule, but sometime in the next, hopefully, short period of time, there will be new monitors. Right now, the proposed is that there's a large 85-foot monitor on that wall there. 85 inch, thank you.
Like 85 foot, wow, I won't need my glasses anymore.
I'm in the side yards. It would fit our side yard. 85 inch, and then replace these two. That one is going to go down, but I'm thinking about that a little bit more, but right now we don't have a replacement for that one. But everything would be kind of geared, you would be geared to look at that wall for presentations and so that's kind of the setup right now, and hopefully that's going to be installed very soon. May 16th, just a question, and Commissioner Sutton is not here, but we do have some opportunity to bring forth, we wrote you a couple memos on some topics that you've been talking about as a board, the Appearance Commission and industrial zone properties in Main Street. Would you like me to go ahead and tentatively schedule those for May 16th? You have some time right now on that day.
Yeah.
And then we may also, as Dave said, I may ask, we are meeting with our ADW, the consultant on our master site plan. And I think he will be ready to present to you very shortly 3 to 5 plans that you want to sort through. If he's ready, I may take the opportunity to schedule May 2nd or May 16th, because I want to keep that kind of going fresh while you also. If that's okay to put on a regular board meeting, I'll assess. That is also the same night as the new Pierce Farm hearing, which may be not a good night to do it, but I'll talk to the mayor and see where y'all are. But that's coming forward too. That site plan is moving forward. That's all I have.
You said appearance and what else?
We wrote a memo that was requested by you all on the locations of industrial zoned areas on Main Street.
Sorry, thank you.
That's all I have, and I will get back to you on the comment that was in public. I did have one thing else, Mayor, I'm sorry. Could you pass one of those? So I'm passing out something that has come from, and we support through Wake County government. They're holding a series of 4 sessions throughout April regarding DEI and related to what their efforts are in educating the public and bringing forth issues. We are kind of endorsing these as part of our programming too. They have a new staff person, Crystal Carmichael, who's a program manager for the Division of Race Equity for Wake County Government. She will be leading these. I know that Lisa's planning on going to one. We'll put these out on our social websites and social media and such, and if you're interested, you may want to attend one of these on your, if you're interested. So that is for your information. You'll see more of that coming out very shortly this week on our website too. That's all I have, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, these are some good little workshop things here, so. How about the board? Any communications from the board before we close?
When you close, I'll think of something.
I know. All right, so with that, I will, April 13th, next Thursday night is the, I guess, What's Happening in Roseville show. It's a chamber business night, got 2 chamber businesses that will be on the show. Jennifer Barnett, which is the owner of Local Charm. Some of y'all know Jen. She'll be on the show. And also Tara Bogle, y'all may not know her, but she has a travel agency company. And she will be broadcasting, be on the show from Disney World. So one of the great things about her business is she goes check out all these places before she books people to go. So
She's
that's
my
kinda-
travel agent, too.
Yeah, that's kind of exciting. So she'll be on there along with Jennifer, and should be pretty good, pretty entertaining. So with that, any final comments from anybody? All right, I think we had a good night. We're getting out of here at a reasonable time. And thank you, appreciate it. Thank you, staff. Thanks, everybody, for coming. Meeting is adjourned.